Hello and welcome back to Suspended Animation. I'm your host, Dennis Patholkis, and this is Doom Patrol, Season 1, Episode 11, Francis Patrol. Hello, everybody. I take it everyone's already seen Avengers Endgame, so I can spoil it for everybody. And the great Xenu in the sky saves everyone, and Batman takes over, and that's all of it. There you go. Now you don't need to see the movie if you haven't seen it. That's right. No, I'm kidding. I'm not spoiling it for you. I will spoil it later on in a spoiler video. But yes, I'm not going to spoil it unnecessarily on the air. That's just being a dickhead. Exactly. Xenu, not Xena, Xenu. So Xena is something else completely different. So speaking of spoiler alerts, spoiler alert, I am going to spoil this episode of Doom Patrol. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it. This will be a video. You can come on back and you can comment down below in the comment section. As plenty of you have already done for the season finale, or the series finale, I should say, of Gotham, which was a stinker. So, and lots of people agree on that one. So it was the Scientologist. It was the Scientologist, Viking bitch. Only spoil your refrigerator leftovers, not the end game. Well, the end game is something different than end game. That's just something else altogether. Anyway, let's talk about Doom Patrol. So we see Larry waking up in the Big Sur Big Sur Motor Lodge, and there's a knock at the door saying it's the military police, and it ends up, of course, being John. And this is the 1960s. We can see they make out and, of course, have sex, and afterwards they have steak sandwiches in their underwear inside the hotel room there, the motel room. And just as, you know, he's telling John that he loves him, John says, "This is a memory of ours. I don't remember this." And Larry says, "Well, this is a place I wanted to take John to. I've driven by it plenty of times, and I was going to go there with him at one point, and we just never got a chance to." And that's when he wakes up, and he's been on the floor. This is, of course, during the whole Jane Patrol thing. And he pleads with, you know, the entity to bring him back. He kind of quietly, you know, says, bring me back, bring me back. And we hear Rita ask him if he's okay, because he gets up, of course. There we go. So Cliff, in the meantime, is sulking over in the corner after all this stuff has happened, and he sees on the news. Well, first of all, we hear about Animal Vegetable Mineral Man, who is not going to testify against his Velociraptor head because he said, as he puts it, he would take a bullet for him, even though it tried to eat him, which is pretty funny. But we hear in the news that Bump Weathers died by alligator. He was eaten by an alligator down in Florida, and Salty Bumps is the name of his bar that he's got down there, and he's survived by his daughter Clara. So Cliff now knows where Clara is located at, because he's been looking for her, but not really looking for her, you know. If it is actually Viking bitch, it is amazing how Cliff can convey sulking through just the body language. It's just this kind of weird broken doll kind of look that the whoever the actor is who's playing the suit of Robot Man is doing a very damn good job, because we know it's not Brendan Fraser in the suit. He's just voicing it, and of course playing the live action, you know, his human counterpart. But I forget the name of the actor who's playing Robot Man himself, but he's doing a damn good job emoting through that, all that kind of stuff. Must have taken a lot of mime classes. So Rita, in the meantime, talks to Jane and is trying to tell her that she needs to find some space, basically, to get into her own mind and find out what's ticking. And Jane's like, no, that's exactly what I don't need. She goes, I've been there before. I need to actually, you know, fill my mind with other things. And that's why I'm looking for the chief. That's why I called this damn group meeting together. And of course, just it's her, Rita, and Cliff. Vic and Larry have not shown up. And they want, you know, she wants to know why, what the hell's going on. So we see that Vic is sitting in his room and he's plugged into an old VGA computer. It's like this green screen computer, and he has actually taken Grid out of his operating system out of his body and put it into the computer. And Grid, of course, can't hear him, can't see him, and is wondering what's going on. And so he's inputting it through a keyboard, very old school at this point. And he tells Grid that he hasn't felt well. He hasn't felt so well since the SOS button was pushed and his arm regenerated after it blew up. And Grid says that isn't it fun to be stronger? And Cyborg says, well, what do you mean by that? And that's when Grid says, since everything has happened, you're now 63% cyborg. And Vic's like, what the fuck are you talking about? He goes, I don't see any, modifications. And that's when Grid says everything that's happening is internal. So of course, Vic is freaking the fuck out at this point, and very well, for a good reason as well. So Jane tells Rita, that Flex Mentallo is the hunky guy that is missing from the comic book that Danny the Street had given them. And that he has, excuse me, and that Jane, of course, rips into Rita for letting the beard hunter go away, the only person that could actually find the chief by tapping into his essence. She's really ripping into Rita about that, and Rita doesn't tell her about the tracker that she put on him. Which, by the way, they're probably going to have to go and look for at some point in time, right? So they haven't really broached that subject at the moment. Sorry, I thought I was looking away from my microphone for a second there. And of course, Cliff is going to leave and go and see Clara because of what's going on. And Rita is encouraging him to do it. And he asks Flit if Flit will, take him over there, take him to Florida. And Jane gets pissed at him and says, "You're going to leave now?" And Flit is not your taxi. I'm not your taxi service. And they're kind of getting into it hot and heavy. And all of a sudden she switches over to Flit, and Flit goes, "Okay, time to end this." A little bit more happy. And she grabs onto Rita and Cliff, transports them over to Salty Bumps, out in the parking lot. And then says, "Bye, you're in sunny Florida," and takes off and leaves them there. And Cliff's like, "What the fuck?" And as he normally says. And Rita says, "Well, you wanted to talk to Clara. Here's your chance." He goes, "I don't know." And he's freaking out. He's starting to have a panic attack. And Rita tries to walk him through some actors exercises in order to get rid of stage fright. Like purse your lips. He goes, "I don't have any lips. That's part of the problem." Okay, breathe in, breathe out. And he's like, again, no lungs, and the actor lessons are just really fucking funny. A movie for nobody says, "I thought that was odd, Dennis the Tracker mystery." Yeah, we haven't revisited that, and that I think is because of Cyborg. It was Cyborg's tracker, so there we go. Yeah, Rita is getting very method on us now at this point. Now that she's kind of gotten her shit together, she's getting very method and imparting that to the rest of the group, which I thought was kind of funny. In the meantime, so they walk into the bar, and of course they don't fit into the bar, of course, at all, because it's a Florida bar in the Everglades. And they're all staring at Cliff like, "What the hell is that?" And Rita explains that that Bump had actually made that a costume for her friend here for one Halloween, and the guys are bumping into it. That looks like galvanized metal, and they're saying what the welds were and all that kind of stuff. And Cliff is asking Rita for help, and she bumps into Big D, and Big D is kind of flirting with her a bit and asks her if she wants to share a bucket of chicken with them. And she says, "Yeah, sure." And he says, "What's your name?" And she says, "My name's Gertrude Kranz." And we'll get to what Gertrude Kranz, who that is, in a moment. Yeah, a robot and a superhuman walk into a bar. Exactly, Viking bitch. So Vic, in the meantime, is cutting open his arm, and I mean just cutting into the bicep completely. And he sees blood coming out a little bit, and he seems a little bit relieved. But then he opens it up and looks deeper into the bone area, and we see that the bone has actually been replaced with metal. And he is freaking the fuck out at this point. Yeah, he is not happy, of course. And Jane bangs on the door and says that Flex Mentallo has a wife who's still alive, Dolores, and that they're going to meet her in an hour and that she needs his help. And she goes, "Are you going to come out or not?" And he's like, "All right, I'll do it." And he's going to come out and help her. In the meantime, we find out that Big D was Bump's neighbor and that Bump liked to go out and do a little gator fishing or gator hunting out there. And you had to be careful because there's a big gator that's out there everyone knows about named Francis. And Francis, when you saw Francis coming, you'd go the other way because Francis had taken down many a gator hunter, and that's who took him down completely. Yeah. And Cliff hears Clara's name. You know, he's kind of overseeing this conversation between Rita and Big D, and then he hears Clara's name and he turns and sees her, and she's working the bar, working the room as a barmaid, pretty much. And he sees her walking around. Larry ends up pleading with the entity again to take him back. He says, "I want to go back to the motel," and that he just needs to see John, and he gets transported again to a memory of them at a 60s gay bar. And John is introducing him to a bunch of guys around a table there, and they're all flirting with him. And Larry is kind of upset because he wants to go back and just him and John at the bar or at the motel. He doesn't want to be at the bar itself. So he's kind of pissed about this, and he actually excuses himself and asks the entity to take him back again. So yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. So we go back to the bar and we see Rita eating a shitload of chicken. I mean, she's got all these chicken bones piled up. She's actually very restraining herself, but still eating a lot. And Big D is very impressed on this one. I thought it was kind of funny. And just when Cliff finally gets up the nerve to go and talk to Clara, basically the room is told to be quiet because Clara, wants to make a speech about Bump. And she talks about Bump raising her after her parents were dead, and how when she turned 18 that he made it official and adopted her, and that she got a little bit of an inheritance from her parents. She said, and one of the things she got from the inheritance was a gold watch. And the gold watch she had engraved "To my dad, my hero." And she gave it to him when he adopted her. So she said that damn thing. She goes, Bump was carpe diem. He always carpe diemed. He would do whatever the hell he pleased. As she says, he lived life like it was ice cream melting on a summer's day, and he was eating it as fast as he could. And that's how he lived his life. And so when he went out there to go and gator hunt, he was just doing what he was doing. And Frances ate him and ate the watch as well. And she says she just really kind of wants the watch back. And of course, they toast Bump. And everyone, Cliff leaves at this point. And Rita follows him and says, "Well, aren't you going to talk to her?" And he's like, "What am I going to say to her? I've got nothing to say." He goes, "I can't follow up with that. He's her hero. He adopted her. He brought her in and adopted her." And then he says, "Rita, come with me," is what he tells her. And he takes Rita with him to the swamp. In the meantime, Larry and John are dancing in the corner of the bar, and John kind of mentions that it wasn't until 1979 that the Rawhide Gay Bar was actually put in the little place in Erie where they lived in Pennsylvania, and the nearest gay bar that they could actually go to was 6 hours away in Philly. So of course it's not the time, it's not the right time frame, but he's actually okay with it. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Rawhide is actually a comic about a gay cowboy. It's a DC comic, so I kind of figure there's their little wink and a nod to DC lore. I think that was just kind of a little throwaway. And I have to give some kudos to the Doom Patrol writers, man. I have them actually on the Twitter feed for this one. It's a Doom Patrol. I think it's Doom Writers Room, something like that. I actually have it attached if you go and take a look at my Twitter on this one. And those guys are actually really good. I mean, they've been doing a phenomenal job on this series. So, and so he was saying, of course, that that they'll be safe there and they can go any place, anytime when they want to. And the only thing is that Larry will not. He's always worried about what people are going to think of him, no matter where they go or no matter what time they go. So he's basically just afraid of things, and he hasn't moved on. He hasn't lived his life. And Larry kind of gets pissed at him, and John tells him to be with him no matter where they are. And Larry says that he'll change. Of course, he goes, I'll change, which is exactly what he told his wife all those years before she left him. And John gets pissed at him and walks away, walks through a storeroom door and disappears. And Larry walks after him, of course, and sees him, he's gone. And when he wakes back up again and wants to know, oh, and that was the other thing too, is John said this is not the way he wanted to spend his last days, which was kind of a weird thing. So we get the feeling that John is not the entity, it's actually John, and that the entity is kind of connecting them, even over a distance. And when Larry wakes up, he's like, he's trying to talk to the entity. He goes, well, what did he mean that he didn't want to spend his last days this way? Where is he? And he goes, I wish you could communicate with me a little bit better. He goes, I'm not the best communicator either. And then he sees these Post-it notes all over the place. And he kind of stands back a little bit, looks around the room, and he sees that the Post-it notes actually spell out the word Erie. So that is where John is in Erie. So yeah. Rita and Cliff end up going out to the swamp to search for Francis, because this is the only thing that Cliff can come up with, is he wants to get the watch back for Clara so that he can prove to her how much he loves her, that he's still her dad and everything like that. And Rita's kind of pissed at him about this. She said that Big D said that people that go after Francis never come back. And Cliff isn't deterred up by this at all. He just wants to go and get this. So he goes wading out into the swamp, and Rita follows him on a boat at this point. So Larry goes to a house. He gets out of a cab there, and he's going to a house out in Erie. He rings the doorbell, and the woman that answers the door, he tells her that he's a friend of John's, and she recognizes him and says, "You must be Larry Trainer. He's been talking a lot about you." And she goes, I recognized, he mentioned you had bandages, so I didn't realize how bad, but come on in, kind of thing. He's been talking about you. He's been mentioning your name quite a bit. He's been drifting in and out. And he goes in and sees that John is in a bed. Of course, he's dying. He's old. And John wakes up and sees Larry and says, I thought it was all a dream. He says at one point, he goes, I got really ill. I saw a bright light, and he goes, and then we ended up in the motel. And I thought that was, I thought that was it. He says, I thought I was dying. He goes, but it felt so real. And then he says, I realized it was you. And he says, well, this isn't a sexy place for us to talk. Why don't you take me out to the porch and we'll do it there? So Larry actually picks him up and carries him out to the porch so they can go and talk. And John tells him, he goes, everyone that I've known is dead now. He goes, they've all passed away. And he goes, you're pretty much the only one I've got left here. And he goes, I'm glad you came to see me. And, and that's pretty much where we leave off there. And we see Vic and Jane, they go to meet Dolores, and they're sitting there in the van, the Doom Manor van. And this is when Vic tells Jane, he goes, yeah, my operating system, he goes, I took it out of me. And she goes, well, don't you need that in order to run? He's like, no. He goes, that's a different thing altogether. And he says, haven't you ever felt that there's a part of you that needed to come out? Otherwise, it was going to damage you internally. She's like, yeah, duh. It happens to me all the time. She goes, I have a whole bunch of different entities inside of me, of course, different personalities, some of them that want to do harm. So just as they are talking about this, this couple go walking by, and this guy is just yelling at the woman. And Jane gets pissed and follows him and starts yelling at the guy. And the guy's ignoring her completely. And she's following them. And then we see this old woman come up to the truck, come up to the van. And Vic says, "Are you Dolores?" And she goes, "Oh, yeah. Take a look at my elbow." And she brings her elbow up. And we see this little round thing on her elbow that flashes him in the face. Yeah, kind of a weird little thing. And excuse me. Sorry. And then, of course, so sorry, there's other thing too. I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. So he says he's afraid of actually talking to his dad about this stuff because of the painting that Jane, of course, did. And she goes, that painting happened of what I saw inside of a donkey that Mr. Nobody's mindfuckery put together. She goes, doesn't mean that's going to happen. And he's just fucking with you at this point. You need to talk to your dad, get stuff in order, is what she says. And that's when, of course, she goes out and starts handling this guy. So Cyborg gets flashed by this woman, by this bright light. As Jane goes to go, and she's like, "Hey, dickhead, what the hell are you doing? Stop yelling at her." And he turns around and says, "Look at my elbow." And as he flashes Jane, she changes personalities. And I believe it was over to Hammerhead, and punches him in the fist, shattering his fist, of course. He makes a run for it because a van shows up, a black van. He jumps in and tells her to go. Of course, it's the girl that he was yelling at. And they take off. And that's when Jane says, "Did you see that guy?" And she's looking for Vic. Vic, where are you? And of course, Vic is gone at this point. We also saw on the guy's lapel, he's got a little pin for the Bureau of Normalcy. So the Bureau of Normalcy is now hunting the Doom Patrol people. So Cliff and Rita are still in the swamp, with Cliff muttering, "I'm going to find the watch, give it to Claire, and everything will be better. I'm going to find the watch, give it to Claire, everything will be better." And Rita's like, "Why don't you just talk to her?" And he goes, "What the fuck am I going to say?" He goes, "I'm your dad and a robot." He goes, "No matter what I say, it's going to sound weird. That, I'm your dead dad that's been in a robot body for 30 years, and I'm now coming by to, see you, but I still love you." And she goes, "Yes, that." Of course, Rita's very simple about this thing. And Cliff's like, he just basically loses it, screams, and then he seems to kind of fry out and not moving. And Rita's going, Cliff, are you okay? Cliff, are you there? And she's, Rita being Rita, just yelling at him to see if that'll work. And he finally goes, "Yeah, I'm here." And she says, "Well, what are we going to do now?" And he goes, "Let's go home." And he tells her, "Why don't you go?" He goes, "I'll catch up in a minute." And he's still standing there, and she takes off. And just as she leaves, we see the water kind of froth up, and we see this gigantic alligator. It's Francis. And Francis leaps into the air, coming right at Cliff. Cliff screams, and we just see the open mouth of the alligator coming down towards him. Yeah. Larry and John, in the meantime, are out on the porch, and John just wants to know how Larry is still so strong after everything, and wants to know about his life. And Larry, he goes, "Well, what about your wife?" And she says, "Well, she died in '89 of cancer." He goes, "What about the boys?" He goes, "I don't want to involve them in any of this." So he hasn't talked to his kids in all this time either. So for 60 years, he's been doing nothing. He hasn't lived his life. And John tells him, you need to get on with your life. You need to move on. And he even says himself that he hasn't been laid since the JFK administration. So, he knows a thing or two about moving on at this point. And Larry tells him, when I told you that I loved you, because I meant it. And John, of course, takes his hand, and Larry says, "You know what?" I guess I'm going to tell you about another relationship that I have. It's kind of an unconventional relationship. And he starts telling about the entity that's inside of him, and how they're having a struggle to communicate and things like that. And as he's telling him this, John passes away quietly in his sleep. And just like that, that was his last thing that he wanted to be, was with Larry at that point. So Cliff enters the bar, and he sees Claire, and Claire's like, "I'll be with you in just a moment." She knows who he is, and he's all dirty and everything. and we see he's got his hand, one of his hands kind of clutched together there, and he ends up leaving. Clara comes out and she sees the gold watch sitting on top of the counter, and I kind of have a feeling she thinks that she knows that Cliff is her dad at that point. So we finally leave with Vic waking up in a room strapped to a chair. And of course, we have Darren Jones over the intercom saying, "Welcome to the ant farm," is what he tells Vic. And, we see the light turn on. We see Jones on the other side of the glass. And of course, Vic inside a room in a chair, much like what Larry was actually strapped to. And there we go. That's how we leave off the episode. So again, a damn good episode. A lot of character. I mean, it's a lot of character interaction, a lot of character building, and I'm liking it. I know a lot of people don't like the character building stuff. They want to get to Doom Patrol, going out on missions, things like that. I like how they're doing this one. It's pretty nice how they're doing this, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, okay, this show is not going to be for everybody. It really isn't. But the writing is just damn good. It's really damn good. I would almost say it's on par with Counterparts writing, quite frankly. I saw some stuff flying by in the chat here, and I wasn't able to talk because I was or answer it because, of course, I was talking at the time. So let's see. Viking Bitch says, watching Vic open up his arm made me shudder. I do that all the time. I mean, didn't do anything for me. Mufinobi says, Cyborg, walk forward, grid. You meet a wizard in the forest. What do you choose? Cyborg, melt wizard. Funny. And yes, so the tracker, we still don't know what's going on with the tracker. But the thing is, it's all Cyborg, and Cyborg needs grid in order to use the tracker. So Cyborg needs to work through his shit with grid first. But now, of course, he's gone because he's been taken by the Bureau of Normalcy. So that's how we're not going to find the Beard Hunter for a while. And of course, I don't know if he's actually going for Chief or he was tracking the whatever the god was, the wolf bear deer god. Because, I don't know exactly which one the Beard Hunter had actually found at that point, who he was tracking. Deep breathing. Sorry, no lungs. Exactly. What else do we have? A Viking Bitch says, I've never seen a gator jump that high. Is that even possible? That thing was huge. Yeah, it was really freaking huge. I thought it was pretty funny. I mean, instead of jumping the shark, it was jumping the robot. Get it? I thought that was pretty funny. Larry was truly closeted, is what Murphy said. Yeah, he still is truly closeted. Even John told him, he goes, times have changed. People are more accepting of things. He goes, you need to move on with things. And it's true. I mean, Larry is very stuck where he was. He hasn't moved on since the accident. He was stuck in that one little corner of his life, and he hasn't moved on for 60 years. It's a long time to be stuck in that one location. Viking Bitch says, I'd love to see Larry finally coming to terms with himself and this entity. Yeah, me too. I want them all to actually just kind of work through this shit now and get it over with. And hopefully we have these, because we only have a couple more episodes. This is episode 11, 12, 13. There we go. So, I want them in the next 2 episodes at least to wrap this shit up. Because, I mean, we still haven't gone through Rita's stuff either. I mean, we've gone through Larry's stuff. We've gone through Cliff's stuff. We've gone through Jane's stuff. We've kind of touched a little bit on Cyborg, not much, but there's not really much to touch on there. Rita's got a lot to unpack, which we haven't even begun to look at. So I'm kind of worried about that. That's what we're going to end up doing. Viking Bitch says that's awesome. I haven't read many comics, so I would never have guessed that. Yeah, Rawhide Kid is a really funny comic, especially the early 2000s version that they did, and it was pretty damn funny. So that was what the Rawhide Bar was kind of, I believe, was a little touch on that one, just a little tongue in cheek from the writers. Little Crispy Tenders says, "Hey Dennis, do you think what do you think is better, Titans, Doom Patrol, or Gotham? Doom Patrol, easily. That's a no-brainer on that. Doom Patrol just has the writing, the acting, everything. Titans, if it didn't have Akiva Goldsman writing it, it would actually be a better show. It just needs to lose Akiva Goldsman at this point. And Gotham just they were trying to do stuff, but they just kind of wussed out, especially at the end there. They really did. They just need to go for it. Let's see. Mufino says the entity connecting them was cool. The nurse said he kept talking about him. Yeah. Oh, and I loved also too at the very end that Larry actually acknowledged the entity and told him, thank you. So it was kind of cool. Let's see what else. Not sure why Jane didn't go superpowered after the van. Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I think she's still kind of reeling from everything that was going on with Susan. So yeah, I think that she's still not. The other personalities are not willing to come up to the surface, and that's why they keep pushing Jane up there and leaving her up there. And she's still trying to work through some shit as well. And like she said, she's trying to keep busy mentally. And that's why we only saw Flit show in for a little bit, and why we saw Hammerhead only show up for a little bit and then revert back to Jane after she punched the guy in the hand. So the others are not willing to come up to the surface anymore because of everything that happened. Elastic Woman hasn't elongated in a while, is what Joker the Third says. Yeah, she hasn't. Elastigirl. Yeah, Elastigirl is actually her name. That was before Pixar's, Incredibles, of course. You'd think they would have done a little bit of research and maybe Googled some shit for once. Damn, I kept calling Larry's boyfriend Francis. What was his name? John is his name. Viking Bitch. John is Larry's boyfriend. Francis was the alligator. Joker the Third says, just like Steel stopped being a meta on Legends of Tomorrow. Well, yeah, they ran out of budget on that one. You could tell their budget's gone way downhill on Legends of Tomorrow. Viking Bitch says, I wonder if they're going to find the chief this season or wait until next. I'm optimistic about another season. Pretty sure they're going to find Chief at this point. I mean, I'm liking the little bits that they're doing with Chief. I want more Mr. Nobody, of course. Mr. Nobody is, for me, is what sucked me into the show and kept me into the show. And then, of course, the writing took over big time. Well, the writing was always good anyway with Mr. Nobody. And I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. Doom Patrol's the whole package. Viking Bitch says, yeah. Mufino says, Jane saying nobody saved me was a good declaration that she's still working stuff out. Yeah, exactly. Mufino says she's more like the Blob than Elastic. Yeah, she melts, really. She doesn't really only 3 more episodes. Okay, so there's 12, 13, and 14. I didn't know there was a 14th episode. Oh, that's right. They gained a new episode. I forgot about that. I forgot that they had gained an extra episode. Glad we got 15, but yes, I want more. Oh, so there's 12, 11, 13, 14, 15. 12, 11, 13, 14, 15. So there's 5 more episodes then. Cool. There we go. That's right, because May 31st is when Swamp Thing takes over. So it has to last till May 31st. There we go. That's 5 weeks. There we go. Nice. I can live with that. So yeah, hopefully they work some stuff out, in the next 2 episodes or so, and then start getting the team together, if you will, getting the band together, that kind of thing. So if you like what you see here, hit the subscribe button. Also, you can hit the like button. If you don't like what you see, you can hit the dislike button. I just ask that you go down in the comment section. Tell me what it is you don't like. Give me a little constructive criticism, other than you suck, your eyes too close together, you smell funny, whatever like that. Just give me some constructive criticism. Also, if you want to know when I'm going to be on live next, you can hit the little bell down there. If you've already hit it, don't hit it again. It will unclick it. You can also go into the bell settings and pick how often or how unoften you get notifications that I'm on live. You can also do the old school way and take a look on my webpage at suspendedfanimation.com for the schedule that I have up. And it's also on my Facebook page as well. I have the schedule up there as well. I'm on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram as well. And if you're still on the fence about joining up, there is a little video that'll pop up here. You can take a look at that, see if that floats your boat. If it does, you can hit the subscribe button. That's going to be over on this side. Yeah, Slurmy, it takes one to know one. He says, no one's going to mention the smell, but it would be rude. Yeah. Movie says, my mistake. 4 more. Forgot the teaser represented another episode. Yeah, nice. I am looking forward to it. So there we go. Tomorrow is Saturday morning blast off. That is where I take the genre news of the week and talk about that and any other genre stuff that you guys want to talk about. I'm going to have to compile a bunch of news tonight because I've been busy as all get out this week. So I need to get a little bit on, move on that. Sunday, of course, is Game of Thrones. Monday is The Tick Season 2. Wednesday is Happy. Thursday, now that Gotham is gone, what's taking over Thursday night? It's going to be iZombie. iZombie premieres on May 2nd, Thursday, May 2nd. There we go. And of course, Fridays is the lovely Doom Patrol. Are you going to do an Avengers discussion next week? Movie for Nobody is asking. I might do just an Avengers video, like a review. I'm thinking that's what I'm going to end up doing, Movie for Nobody, not just doing an open discussion. That way people can talk about it in the chat, in the comment section down below the video. Just doing a non-spoiler version and doing a spoiler version. Yeah, it's just easier that way. If I try and do it with the chat, and then I'll get discombobulated, and I just want to do something really short, probably like 10, 15 minutes, something like that for each one, and pop it up there. It was a good movie. I'll have to say that much. Joker the Third says, yeah, Dennis, I'm already dead. Viking Bitch says, go for it. Get them clicks. Yeah. You could do it as a premiere when we chat with you. I still need to set up a Patreon as well because, like I said, it's been busy this week, really busy. And they just keep throwing more and more stuff on top of us at work. So, yeah, we got to drop a whole bunch of stuff to do this other thing. And then there's like, oh, yeah, and by the way, performance reviews are up too. So you got to have that done by next week. I'm like, yeah, that ain't going to happen. Maybe it might. I don't know. Lots of spoiler reviews have already popped up. Yeah, I know that. So that's why I went and watched. I actually went and watched it this morning. At 7:45 a.m. this morning is when I went and watched it, which was actually the perfect time to go and see it. The theater wasn't full. It had some people in it. I got to watch it in the good theater that held Dolby Atmos, widescreen, all that kind of stuff. So it was really nice. And yeah, it was good. It wasn't empty. It was probably about, I would say, 40% full, 45% full, somewhere around there. So, yeah. I didn't want to go last night to do this because I wasn't going to be able to stay up for 3 hours watching it. I would definitely have fallen asleep during it and peed myself more than likely at the same time. So yeah, I just got a good night's sleep. Then I went in and did that way. Viking Bitch says that's a good turnout for such an early showing. Yeah. Movie Fanoe says crowd was into it. Was fun last night. A good movie. B+, A-. Yeah. Slurmy, it wasn't as bad as you would think. That 3 hours went by pretty fast. I'll just say that. Yeah. But we'll talk about that. We can talk about that tomorrow. Right now, let's leave it at Doom Patrol. Thank you, everybody who joined me in the chat. Movie Fanobi, Slurmy Scott, Little Crispy Tenders, Sculpted Leather Right by Viking Bitch. I believe Morks was in here too. Joker the Third, maybe the Morks is lurking. He normally does. And who else was in here? I think that was it. I think that was everybody. Yes, it was. So again, if you want to take a look, you take a look at the videos up here. You can take a look at the and hit the subscribe button over this side. Everything's good there. Other than that, I will see you tomorrow morning for Saturday morning blast off. Thank you, everybody. And don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may end up having someone say, hey, look at my elbow. And then end up flashing you. And not in the good way. Good night, everybody.